What's good? It's Ian Parker and the coach coming up. We're going to get you all set for all the picks for PFL 3 tomorrow night.
Coach, last week you asked for winners. Not only did we give you them, we were perfect, and we're going to do it again this week.
I like perfection. The DraftKings pre-fight show starts right now.
Professional Fighters League action is back. Once again, Ocean Casino Resort plays host to the PFL regular season. Last week, it was about the finishes. 5 finishes, 4 in the first round, and an exciting open to Rory the Red King McDonald's career. Can this man do the same in his PFL debut? Fabricio Verdum tomorrow night on ESPN. And how about that woman? The baddest girl on the planet, Kayla Harrison, gets back to her quest for PFL gold. Ferreira, Verdum, Harrison, Moraes. PFL pre-fight show presented by DraftKings. From 7 to 11 Eastern, ESPN hosts the Professional Fighters League. And these are the 4 feature bouts on the card. Verdum and Harrison at the top, but don't sleep on Kamaru Usman, Larissa Pacheco, or any of their opponents. And how about this? Leading into all of it, at 5:30 we'll be on Plus with a showcase bout and then the league action. Women's lightweights and heavyweights looking for points in our PFL regular season standings in hopes for a playoff spot and, of course, a trip to the $1 million championship. Don't worry, we're going to get out to Coach and Ian Parker in just a minute. For now, Sean O'Connell, Randy Couture, Kenny Florian cage side, and fellas, literally and figuratively, this is a big night. Before we get to the heavyweights though, Randy, Kayla Harrison, the baddest woman on the planet, is back inside the PFL Smart Cage. What do you expect?
Well, Kayla starts her journey for her back-to-back championships. She was our 2019 lightweight champion, 2-time gold medalist, most decorated judoka in the U.S. history. She took on another title this year in the off year. She took on the title of mother. She assumed the mothership, I guess is the word you'd call it, of her niece and nephew. And man, what an amazing human to step up under bad circumstances and take charge of that situation. Amazing.
A lot on Kayla's plate, but if anyone can handle it, it's her. And Kenny Florian, Fabricio Verdum makes his Professional Fighters League debut. Another legend steps inside the Smart Cage.
This is a guy who really has done it all, both in jiu-jitsu, submission wrestling, and mixed martial arts, but he has one championship left to win, and that is here in the PFL. He loves the format. He has put everything into this. He has sacrificed a lot of time away from his family, hired a sports psychologist, so this guy is ready to rock.
Fabricio Verdum is, of course, one half of our main event coming up tomorrow night on ESPN. And the other half happens to be the tallest man on this roster. That's your tail of the tape. Big reach advantage for Renan Ferreira. And goodness, he's also a lot younger. Now, some people think that matters. Other people, not so much. Randy Couture, Fabricio Verdum is 12 years the senior of his opponent. What does it mean?
Well, by my estimation, Fabricio Verdum has a good 4 more years of competition. No problem. This guy has won at every single level. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion, mixed martial arts world champion, submitted a who's who in this sport, including Fedor Emelianenko. Amazing striking, and that's why his jiu-jitsu is so effective. He'll punch his way in, get you on the ground, and take you out.
You know, Ferreira doesn't have the experience or the wisdom of Fabricio Verdum, but he does have youth and speed on his side, and he also has size as well. He is absolutely massive at 6'8". He's going to look to use that reach, keep Fabricio on the outside, and if it does go to the mat, guys, he's a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well.
It's a stellar main event. And how do we bet it? Well, for that information, we go to the coach, Jonathan Coachman, and the Duck, Ian Parker.
Sean, great to see you guys again. Now, PFL 1 and PFL 2 kind of ran parallel to how the betting went in PFL 1 and PFL 2. Kind of a slow start, and then we really picked it up. Ian, last week, you were as good as it gets.
Yeah, you know what? We can't really complain when we go 100% coach, and we're going to be looking to do it again this week.
Now, before I look forward, I'd like to look back for a second to see exactly how you handicapped the main event, which involved, of course, Rory McDonald.
Rory McDonald, the Red King, comes over from Bellator. He's looking to make a statement in the PFL. In this fight against Curtis Millender, I believe he knows exactly what he has to do and get the fight to the ground against a really good striker in Curtis. Look for Rory to bring this fight to the floor and to win this by submission.
There's the handlock right there.
He gets him, and that is enough to score the takedown. Millender surrenders it. Will it be enough? Millender peels the top hand off. This is going to be it, guys. The tap. The Red King successful.
Yeah, it's one thing to pick winners. It's another thing to pick how a fight is going to finish. That's kind of next level kind of stuff. But there's a saying that you're only as good as your last pick. That was last week. We need to spin it forward to this week. At our main event, Ian, this week, of course, it's a heavyweight. It is Fabricio Verdum taking on Hannah Ferreira. Now, Verdum, a huge name formerly in the UFC, but he is all about submissions, getting guys to the ground. And when you look at his resume, there's some big-time names on that resume.
The biggest names of all time, Coach. You got Alistair Overeem, the first man to submit Fedor, first man to submit Cain Velasquez, Big Nog Nogueira, and recently in the last year, Alexander Gustafsson. This is a who's who of MMA, Coach.
And at least in the regular season, you're going to see some of these matchups that have pretty big numbers next to them, and Verdum is one of those. So how are you handicapping and picking our main event Thursday night?
I'm looking similar to the way that Rory did it. I think Fabricio Verdum wants to come in here and make a statement. Fighting a taller fighter who is mainly a boxer, does have a jiu-jitsu black belt to his name, but Fabrizio's going to close the distance. He's not going to want to mess around. He wants the 6 points, and I think that Verdum does what he does best, gets his fight done by submission.
And if he does, it's going to bring a return of minus 139, which is a much more manageable number for that main event. Still to come here on the show, we're going to tell you how you can play the Kayla Harrison fight, and also a very familiar name, Usman, is on the card Thursday. We'll pick that fight and the rest of the card coming up in just a couple of minutes. But for now, let's send it back to the Smart Cage in Shaw.
Thanks, Coach. Randy, not only does Ian Parker likes Fabricio Verdum to win, but he likes him to win by submission. And you saw the list. Basically all of the great heavyweights of mixed martial arts, except for maybe yourself, on that list. What makes Fabricio Verdum's grappling so hard to defend?
I'll tell you what makes it so effective. His hands. He punches his way into that clinch, punches his way into those takedowns. He's a very effective striker, and that makes his submissions game that much more formidable.
Kenny, no secrets in the world of mixed martial arts. Hannah Ferreira is 6'8". That probably means he wants to use his range. How do you stay standing against Fabricio Verdum?
You know, he better. And he's not necessarily safe there either. Fabricio can't strike, as Randy said. But I think his best bet is to try to back Fabricio up with that jab, use that reach, try to keep Fabricio from getting on the inside and landing those shots, and also use those other long-range weapons, those leg kicks, or attack the body with the kick or the roundhouse kick to the head. So Ferreira definitely needs to use those long-range weapons against Fabricio.
That heavyweight tilt is our main event on ESPN. But how about this co-main? Kayla Harrison is a two-time Olympic gold medalist. She already has a PFL belt from the 2019 season at 155 pounds. This is the name that every woman in the world is chasing. Randy, if you're trying to catch up to somebody like Kayla Harrison, how do you do it?
Boy, no easy task. She spent a lot of time in her off year working on her striking and trying to bring that more into the forefront in her style. We'll see if she uses that. We know what she's going to do, and she says that. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. I'm going to take you down, and I'm going to isolate one of your limbs and try and remove it from your body. I don't think it's going to be any different tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think for Kayla, you know, because you know she's going to try to take you down, I think it's going to be difficult against a shorter opponent to get underneath that center of mass or to throw something that's going to be shorter and stockier than you is not going to be easy. And Moraes has that kind of frame. She can keep it standing. She believes in her hands. You see her get that knockout right there like she did in Brazil. She fought twice that night, so she is very confident heading into this, guys.
I don't know if I would be that confident heading into a mixed martial arts fight against Kayla Harrison. She is a beast. But how do we bet this one? Well, we go back out to Coach and Ian for that.
Sean, what's crazy is that this fight started around minus 1,400. Now it's up to minus 2,000. That means there are people playing this number. Now, we would never, ever, ever recommend doing that. But before we get to the pick, Ian, as we look at the last 5 decisions for Kayla Harrison, we've got to tell the entire story. There is a possibility that this could go the distance on Thursday. She's been taking the distance before.
As you can see in her last 5 fights, yes, 3 wins by finish, but 2 of them by decision to Larissa Pacheco, who's also fighting on this card. Coach, it's MMA. Anything can happen.
Yes, anything can happen. Now, we don't think that's going to happen, but anything can happen. So at minus 2,000, that's just not a number that I can work with. So bring it down to something that is manageable that we can all play.
Minus 2,000 screams we don't think it's going to happen, but that is too much. Even minus 400 for Kayla to get the finish is also too much. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to tap into our props. We're going to go Kayla Harrison by TKO at plus money. I believe she gets this fight to the floor, and I don't think she's going to need to rip off any limbs. I think her ground and pound is going to get it done.
But why wouldn't you play the submission, or why don't you think it's going to be that?
I just think that the ground and pound is going to be too much. I think her opponent has good enough jiu-jitsu to defensively hold off. Again, the power of Kayla is going to be too much.
All right, those are the 2 featured fights for the heavyweights and the women on Thursday night. But still to come, we've got a guy named Usman. We got to pick his fight and also several other plays that Ian found that are screaming, pick me, and we will. Coming up in a couple minutes, but now, Sean, let's send it back to you.
All right, Coach, how about that? Kayla Harrison, she's promised us the hands are getting better. Parker likes her by TKO. That's an interesting pick. And, Kenny, part of the story with Kayla Harrison is she's a physical specimen. She's taller than her opponent. She's broader shouldered, more muscular than her opponent. How much does the physical matchup come into play here?
You know what? There's problems and then there's dilemmas. And I think because she has that reach and size advantage, that does present a dilemma. Because in order for Moraes to get on the inside, she needs to get close. But to get close offers up the clinch. If she stays on the outside, Kayla's going to have the reach advantage. So very interesting fight.
Randy, Kayla is obviously undefeated so far in her young mixed martial arts career. But the countrywoman of Moraes, Larissa Pacheco, took Kayla to a decision twice. Arguably, she's performed the best against the returning champion. Is there anything that Moraes can learn from the tape on those fights?
I guarantee you Moraes has studied those videos and tried to find a chink in the armor of Kayla Harrison. Now, maybe she's seeing something we're not, but I think she's going to try and replicate Larissa's successes, use her hands, and try and stay inside but not get into the clinch, and that's going to be a challenge.
That's the co-main event tomorrow night on ESPN. But how about this? Leading into it is a familiar name in the sport of mixed martial arts. Normally, Usman is associated with the older brother, Kamaru, arguably the pound-for-pound king in the welterweight division and any division right now. But Muhammad Usman looks to start writing his own legacy inside the PFL Smart Cage tomorrow night, Kenny.
That's right, and his nickname is The Motor. I didn't get the nickname The Motor for a reason. I don't look like Muhammad Usman. Look at that guy. He's an absolute specimen, you know, competed at a high level in college in his football days, and he's looking to bring in those physical skills into the mixed martial arts Smart Cage. This is a guy who is going to put a lot of pressure on you. He believes his conditioning is going to be the difference. Thus, The Motor.
Brandon Sales, Sergeant First Class Brandon Sales, 18 years in military service in the United States Army, teaches combatives at Fort Benning, Georgia. This guy has a ton of tools. He's a huge Hawaiian, coming down from 340 pounds. Got knockouts and submissions on his record. He's got a well-rounded game. I'm anxious to see him fight.
I'm very much looking forward to this bout, but these are 2 PFL newcomers. So how do we know how to bet it? Well, that's what Coach and Ian are for, fellas.
Well, and we're happy to be here for that, Sean. Now, when you think of the last name of Usman, it just screams swagger, confidence. And for this week, it screams a big number next to his name. Now, Ian, last week, you hit a nice little 4-team parlay. Tell me how you're going to play the Usman fight and how you're going to wrap it together.
Usman, I believe, is the more well-rounded fighter here. 3 finishes by TKO, 2 by sub, 2 by decision. It shows me that motor, he can go 3 rounds against a very powerful guy in Sale, so I do like Usman to get the win. However, I want him as the first leg of the parlay as the odds are too high, which brings us to the second leg of the parlay. Fabrizio Verdum, just to get the win. Third, we like Goltsov here. I like his striking. I like his wrestling. As long as he doesn't get into a brawl, that fight is his to win. And last but not least, the woman we keep talking about who took Kayla Harrison to a decision not once, but twice. Larissa Pacheco is fighting a very inexperienced fighter. She should have the advantage everywhere. Feet, submissions, you name it. And that's the fourth leg of my parlay, Coach.
That is an absolutely gorgeous 4-leg parlay. But, Ian, I'm looking at my lineup for Thursday night. I see that name, I see a lot of names that we haven't even talked about yet. Give me 3 that you saw the number. You said, you know what? I can work with that.
At plus money, let me start off with Taylor Gordado. I believe her speed, her athleticism, and if she gets the fight to the floor and ends up on top, I see her getting a nice little victory there. We also like Jenna Fabian. 2 TKOs in her professional career. She is fighting another striker with less experience. She's fought the better level competition. I believe she is the stronger athlete, so look for Fabian to get the win. And the last fight, I like Caitlin Young and Cindy Dendois. Dendois striking is not the best. Good ground game, but Caitlin Young should be more than comparable to keep the fight standing and outstrike and win this fight, Coach.
Make sure you follow him, Ian Parker MMA. I'm the Coach Rules. We'll be live tweeting throughout the entire fight card on ESPN and fill you in on anything that happens as it happens. For Ian, I'm the Coach. We've given you all that we can give you. Let's take all these tickets straight to the pay window. Sean, back to you.
Thank you both. And look, far be it from me to question Ian Parker. He was 100% on his picks a week ago. But a couple of interesting notes in what he just gave us there. Randy, I'll start with Dennis Goltsov. He was supposed to be fighting Justin Big Pretty Willis. Willis made weight, but then was not medically cleared. So literally last second, Dennis Goltsov gets a change of opponent. Mohamed Darius, Mo Muscle, we've seen him be explosive in the past. Does this change the way the fight plays out?
I'm not sure. Goltsov talked about maybe taking this fight with Willis to the ground. I'm not sure if he's going to feel the same way about Darius. 6'5", long-rangy world champion in combat sambo. He's got 10 submissions and 10 knockouts in his career. He can take this fight wherever he wants.
He also likes Larissa Pacheco, he being Ian Parker. Larissa is a heavy favorite against Julia Pajic, but there's a big physicality difference here. Pajic is 6 feet tall. Larissa Pacheco runs about 5'8". Kenny, how do you look at this fight?
Well, I like what Ian said about experience, and that really matters, guys. The more you see, the more knowledge you have. And Larissa Pacheco has been doing this since she was 15 years old. She has a lot of experience, whereas Julia has only 3 fights. So I think that truly matters, and Pacheco is just good everywhere.
I love that we have the coach and Ian Parker to tell us how to bet these things because, man, the odds are wild. And by the way, MMA fans can play in a free PFL main event pool on DraftKings for a shot at $5,000 in prizes. Just download the DraftKings app, sign up with promo code PFL, and submit your picks. $5,000 in prizes up for grabs. We're on ESPN tomorrow night from 7 to 11. Those are the final 4 bouts, including the Verdum debut, the heavy favorite Kayla Harrison in our co-main event. Look at those odds. Woo! Good luck to all of you out there who are laying it down. The night begins on ESPN and ESPN Plus, actually, at 5:30. There'll be a showcase bout, then Kolesnik, Gardado, and a bunch of heavyweights and women's lightweights looking for points in the regular season, a trip to the playoffs, and a championship. There are your odds for our card on the opening of ESPN. Like I said, good luck. You don't want to miss it. Tomorrow night on ESPN. Heavyweights, women's lightweights, Professional Fighters League action. For Sean, I'm Sean O'Connell for Randy Couture and Kenny Florian. We'll see you tomorrow night.